Hello everyone. Today we are going to continue the Netlify functions for the from where we have last week we stopped our steps. So step number 18. We'll start with the step number 18. Adil will join us in a while, and let's start with the step number 18. The point we have discussed in last class was that we can create function with Netlify, and those function will be deployed on AWS Lambda. And the good thing about the Netlify function is they are serverless, so there will be no limitation or scalability. So today we want to use that function, and we will be learning that how we will add some other library or some other function to that what you say a function. So let me share my screen first. Okay, so step number 18 we have done till step number 17, and today we need to cover step number 18. For step number 18, there is an additional one thing that in function, as it's a server-side function, so we need to use other libraries if we want to use any other library. So how we'll be using that in our serverless function? So that's what we need to learn. So for that, if you see, we need to go into the function folder of a function, and whatever library we want to install, we will install it, and then we use that library in our function. So let me show the code which step number 18 already has. So here you can see in function hello.js. Here you can see the library we are talking about is random name. So we just want to generate a random name for our message to respond to the customer or a client. So for that, we'll import that library, and then we'll install that library, and then we'll call the require. After the require, we'll use that random library to generate any random name, and then we will send that name to the client, the response. So what I'll do is, as we have already seen how we create Gatsby project, how we start a function. So that's already being done in my this project. So we don't need to worry about that. We in last class we have seen how to create a function, and then how to use this function, how to deploy that function. Today I'm going to use that code exactly the same we used in last class, and I'll just add the library code so that we'll just import the install library in our project and import that library and use it. So for that, I'll go to the command prompt, and I'll call cd functions slash. So I'm inside hello function, and here what I'll do is I'll npm. Okay, now what we need to understand is the folder we have hello.js is not an npm project. To install any library and keep it in package JSON like we did for the Gatsby or we did for any client project, same we need to do with the server side code. So we must have an package.json file. To have package.json file, we can create it directly, or we can use npm init command, and it will generate the package.json for us. So I'll call npm init. It will ask for the package name. I'm just using the default setting. It will generate the, you can see it has generated the package.json file. Now if I'll install any library with the save command, it will appear here in dependency, just like we did for the Gatsby. We have seen we have a dependency like we have here. So same will go for the this case. Okay, so what I'll do is npm install Save, and what we need to do is we need to use this library, and this library is random name. npm installed as a save random. We'll start installing. Okay, so it's installed, and as you can see we have node module now inside our function folder as well. This node module related to our functions folder. So as we have already discussed that Gatsby's static content will be deployed separately on CDN. Functions will deployed on AWS Lambda functions. So that package JSON file and all the things will be deployed on AWS Lambda. Now inside that hello function, what I need to do is I need to require this library. Okay, we have Daniyal as well. Okay, so I'll random equals random. Okay. Now instead of using event.queryParameter.name, what I'll do is I will generate the random name and I'll return that name as it's been done here. Hello name. So the message as it's just a key, we have hello and then name property. And that name is coming from random.first, whatever the library name we have, and then we'll call random.first, so it will give us any random name. Okay, so what I'll do is we'll forget about this line and do random.first. It will generate a random name and we'll use that name here. Okay, so we are done. As we have this library as well, we are done with it, and we can go to, let me open another terminal here as well. So Netlify dev. Instead of Gatsby develop, we'll be using Netlify dev so that we Netlify start the functions, local server for functions as well. It seems we have some kind of error over here. Unexpected error. Pages token. Okay. So I'm using existing project, so might be.
No, no, sir. I think the error is in the object you call the semicolon.
Yeah, it's because it's in client side, so I haven't changed the client side logic. It's
Mhm.
the
At
one.
the end of body. At the end of the body, line 11.
Yes, so what we need to do is we need to ignore this. Just call the hellos because it's we have just get function. We are not talking about the what you say post function. Response.fetch hello, response.json, and we'll receive data over here and we'll display the data to the client. Okay, so rebuilding is done. Okay, so now we have, let's say, refresh it, and Dana, and as you can see, so we are receiving the random name. The important thing what we need to learn here is that how we'll be adding multiple libraries with our function. So our function requires to use some other library, any other repository or library or utility for which we need to use inside our function, that we need to use inside our function. So for that we will be using package package.json. So we'll start npm init, so our function will become, function folder will become what you say, npm project, and then we can add whatever library we want to use it, we'll install it, and then we can call that library inside it, just like we have done with the any client side library. It will be similar to that for the server as well. The only difference is it will be running in aws lambda. Okay, so that's what we have in step number 18. For step number 19, we need to start today AWS Lambda. Sorry, FaunaDB. So, Daniel, you want to add something related to the FaunaDB?
Yes, sir. You please continue it. I will continue after the theory. Or if you want to go with practical, so no problem at all.
Okay. So, FaunaDB, step number 19, you can see Sazia have given us all the details. So, we have these articles and links. What is FaunaDB and what are the services related to the articles related to the FaunaDB? The important thing is for the FaunaDB is it's a new type of database. Basically, we have worked with the SQL servers, MySQL, Node.js, Firebase. There are all type of databases. The good thing about the FaunaDB is generally database have single type of document structure. Either you will be using relational database, MySQL type. Either you'll be using MongoDB, NoSQL, or you will be using Postgres, MySQL, MySQL Server, MySQL Server,
I think Sir Zeeshan has disconnected. Yes, he is coming back. Otherwise, I will take over it. I think I have to continue it. I just asked to Sir Zeeshan, otherwise I will continue it. Are you coming, sir? Otherwise, I will continue it.
just a moment, it's connecting.
Okay, okay. Yes, sir. Zeeshan is connecting again. Yes, he is connected.
Okay, I'm back.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me? I think he is disconnected again. Uh,
Hello.
yes. Yes, now it's better, sir. Okay, perfect.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear
Sorry,
now.
guys, for the disconnection. It's somehow internet was got disconnected. So let me share my screen again.
Hmm.
Okay, so I was talking about the FunaDB. The good thing about the FunaDB is as we can use the different databases for different purposes. If you want to use relational database, we'll be using MySQL or SQL Server or Oracle Server. If you want to use the NoSQL databases, we'll be going for the MongoDB or Cassandra or any other databases that can be for the NoSQL. If we want to use graph databases, so there'll be a separate databases for the graph. FunaDB, the good thing about FunaDB is it's specifically built for the database. And another important thing is that FaunaDB is distributed by default. So you do not have to worry about where the database is, how you will be scaling it, how the all the components of the database scalable. It's highly scalable because you are not limiting it to a particular server. It's a distributed database, so it's scalable by default. And the important thing is it's an API based, so we'll be directly connecting to the database through client side as well as to using the server side port. So we'll be connecting from our Lambda functions from the Lambda functions, but we can connect with the client side as well. So the good thing about FaunaDB is it's specifically built for the applications like Jamstack applications or client serverless applications, where we have a client and client talk to the serverless database. Serverless, if we have a function which serverless function which are distributed, so we need a database as well that is distributed so that it does not bottleneck for single region for a database call. So it will not be a single place where all the function will be hitting for the database. So it's also distributed. Okay, so for that we have to first what we have to do is we have to first log into the database interface. So let's
Hey guys, how are you?
Yes, we are good. How are you?
Good, good.
you are saying something, Daniel?
No, no. Adil bhai was asking, how are you all?
Okay. Okay, so for that, first I'll show you. Let me sign up. So you have this database. First, you have to sign up yourself for the database, any email address, password, and once you are done with it, you need to log in. And I forgot my login credentials. Okay, good. So inside this interface, we have page. We have the account setting, billing, everything over here. What we can do is create new database. We can give it a name. Let's say demo new. If you want to pre-populate with some collections inside the database so that you have idea, you can click it pre-populate. Otherwise, you need to keep it empty when you will be working for this. I'm hearing myself back.
Yes, sir. There is some distortion in the voice. Adil bhai, can you mute your mic?
Yep, yep.
Okay. So demo new DB, and I'll call this save. Once you will save, you have the interface of database. So if you have worked with any other database like um, MySQL, or you have used MongoDB, so you have a database services available. You have, like for MongoDB, we have MongoDB Atlas, where you can use database online, and MongoDB Atlas host the database on MongoDB Atlas server. Same, we have interface for FaunaDB, sorry, not MongoDB, but FaunaDB. So we have this interface, we have this list of, you can see the list of collection. As I have clicked the pre-populate some data, so it is giving me few data. As you can see, it has some record for the database, and there is another collection. So any table, if you are coming from the SQL background, you will be talking about anything you need to store something, so you will say it's in a table. For NoSQL database, it's a collection. So in our case, we have created the database by default created for collection for us, and each collection have few records, uh, indexes, functions. You can create functions and in the database, and you can call that function directly. So the logic will be execute on the FaunaDB server. So you do not have to worry about shell GraphQL interface for FaunaDB. So you can uh, call your API or your data with GraphQL query as well. So we'll see it later. Today we'll just see how we can call the FaunaDB APIs directly. So that's what we have. We have in our database, and once you have this, you need. We'll see in steps a few moments that will be needing a key. So for that, I'll go to the security, and in
Setting.
security, you need to create your key. In setting, create your key, new key. I'll call it, and I'll give it an admin role. If you want to give it any name, so give it. Otherwise, it's an optional. So what it will do is it will create a key for your database, and this will be a one time. So you have to copy it. Otherwise, once you will leave this screen, you will not be able to access that key again, and you have to create a new key. So you can create new key as well, but what I'll do is I'll keep it with me just to that's for the learning purpose. So we have this key, and once I'll go to any other screen and I'll come back to it, it will not show me again. You can just revoke that key and you can create new key, but you will not able to see detail of this key once you have it. So we'll be needing to call from the our code. We need that key as so. Okay, so we have seen this interface. It has these collections. You can see particular collection in detail, and now we'll be going to the code and we'll see how we can use that code in our application. Okay, so for that, as you can see, we have few steps for each logic. For example, create database key, container, indexes. So let me show that in a code, and then we'll move to each steps individually. Okay. So for FaunaDB CRUD, first step, let us first see how the code will work, and then we'll use that code in our application, and then we can call it. Okay. So for that, first of all, what you need to do is you need to install FaunaDB in your what you say project. So you will be installing the FaunaDB, and we'll also install .env so that we can pick the uh, environment variables for DB secret. So based on this code, forget about this function because we are calling async await. So that's why we need that function as a async. And then what it says is if we have a secret, then new phonadb.client. So now these steps are important. Once you install phonadb, npm install dash dash say phonadb, so it will be installed on your system. There is nothing new in it. We will require it. Const phonadb equals to require. Then we'll call const q equals to phonadb.query. So you can just see this in this way. Then what we need to do is we need to create an instance of a client. So we'll call the new phonadb.client. So that's a client which is connecting to phonadb server. And then we need to pass a secret, the admin secret, which we have copied a moment ago. We'll have to pass that secret over here. Once it is done, we'll have an instance of a client that which is our reference, and we need to call all the queries using that client. So we have that client.query function. All the queries that we'll be calling or will be start creating the database from collections, add, update, anything we'll be doing inside. We'll be calling function and passing the function inside that client.query. So that's our main function, client.query, and we'll be calling function inside that. So you can see q.create database round bracket, and then inside that we will be passing the name of a database. So what this code does is it creates a database using the
I think Zeeshan has again disconnected.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay.
Do you want to take over?
Yes, I have to take over it. I'm sharing my screen first.
Okay.
Yes, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect. So actually, Sir Zeeshan was showing create a database. So he's already explained about the definition of MongoDB, what MongoDB is, as does, why we are using MongoDB, why we are not using MongoDB and other databases. Because the MongoDB provide us a data API serverless architecture where we don't need to worry about the APIs. When we create a database, when we store the database, when we store a data in our MongoDB, it will provide us data API. So using that API, we can call it on our client side as well as on server side. So this is we have all the functions that provide by MongoDB. So let me open my code first. Yes. So Dishan was showing step 0. That is our create database step. This is our async function, as we have already learned that function. In this function, what we are going, this is, Dishan has joined us again. Yes. Sir, you have got disconnected. So
So have you
do you want
started?
to continue? Yes, I just started. If you want to continue, you just go ahead.
If you have started, please continue.
Now I think Daniyal is stuck. Looks like we have some connection issues. Please give a second. One of these guys should join us soon. I just talked with Daniel on the phone. He's changing his system, and I think Zeeshan has just joined back as well. So we could.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Daniel as well.
yeah, Daniel had some issue with the system also.
Okay.
So he said he's gonna be back in a couple minutes. So if you want to
Okay.
continue.
Yes, let me continue. Okay, so what I was explaining is basically, let me start from the scratch. That what we need is we need a project that will be an npm project. So we'll be talking about a project which will talk to the database. For that, it will at this moment we'll be just creating a simple empty folder, and inside that we'll be creating a javascript file that will be talking to the faunadb. So for that, if you see these steps we have already in our project, in our jamstack repository. If you can see that, what we have done is we have import the required faunadb, and once we done the required faunadb, then we need a query from that faunadb library, and then .env for the config. And because will be calling the is await for the query, so we need a async function. So ignore that for a while. Now what we need to do is we need to create faunadb client, a client that will be talking to the faunadb server database. So what we'll do is we'll call new faunadb.client, and inside that we'll pass the secret which we have copied from the server. from the FaunaDB interface. So it will give us a client reference, and then we'll call the client.query. Client.query is a function in which we'll be calling all other functions to create database, to create index, to create collection, to retrieve database, to update, delete, everything. All those queries, they will be called as a function. So we'll be passing those function inside client.query. So if you see here, it will be like this. So we are calling client.query, and inside it, if you want to create database, we'll call the q dot create database. If you want to get the data, fetch the data from the database, we'll call q dot get. So here we have q dot create database, and then we have all if there is an error or something or not. So that's what we have. What I did is I have already created a project. This project does not have anything. It's an empty folder. It just has package.json file and node module, so that I do not wait for the installation. So if you can see, this is basically package.json file, and it has .env and faunadb as a library, and then I'll create a JavaScript file. So it's a simple file. I'll call step 1 or anything. Inside that, first of all, what I need to do is I need to require the faunadb. Then const q equals to dot query. So we'll have that, and as we have seen here, because we need to call the await, so we need this async function. It's a self-calling function, and then what we'll do is now here we need to call first. We need to create a client. So we'll call const client equals to, and we'll pass the secret. So for now, I'll pass the static value directly, hard-coded value. Later, we'll change it. On the client, what we need to do, we need to call the query, and whatever we'll be doing, it will return us a result. So for try catch, why we need try catch? Because if we are using async await instead of promises, so if there is any error, it will crash it will throw error. So you need to use the try catch for that if you are using async await. Try. Now result client dot client.query. Now inside that, we need to call q, this q, which we have received for faunadb.query. So we're using this variable q dot create database, and we'll give it a name like HP app. Once it's done, it will give us a result. So I'll console that result. I'm live, right? Just
Yes, yeah.
verifying. Just verifying. Okay, so result. If there is an error, so we can manage error anyway. the code has already mentioned that error.result. If you have status code 40, that means there is some error or we have a message. So I'll just copy this error. I do not have to worry about it.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Once we are done, as I have mentioned that it's not a client-side application and it's also not a server-side application. It's just a Node.js code. So what we need to do is I'll just call it from the terminal. So node space step1.js. So once I'll hit that, what it will do is it will execute this code, this function, and everything inside it. So it will run this first line, it will try to connect with the FaunaDB, then it will create the result and it will try to create the Gatsby database name Gatsby app. The very first step, cannot read property status code of unknown. So there is error, cannot read. Okay, so let me console the error directly so that we can see. Another property query of undefined. Number 12.
I think, sir, create database is take the object, a Gatsby app name, and
No,
then
I guess FaunaDB.create client is not working, so it's giving the null.
I think
Just a moment, it just new FaunaDB. Oh, I just forget to use the new.faunadb.client so that it will create the client instance. Okay, so unhandled promise rejection. This error originated throwing. Okay, so I'm as this is a promise function, we need to call await so that it will return a promise and will handle that promise as a await so that once the call is done, it return the promise, so we'll handle that. So that's why we need to use await keyword. Okay, now what it says invalid argument. This is where you were saying something, Daniel. That, okay, we need an object.
yes,
So I did a lot of mistakes in this first code.
no problem at all.
HV app. So to call the create database, we need to pass an object, and inside that object will be passing the key, the name of the database, and then value. Okay. Now it says results, so that means database has been created, and we can go to our database and we'll see if we have this demo new DB, and inside the demo new DB you can see child databases, and you have another Gatsby database. So that's a child database. You can use a child database or you can use a parent database directly. There is no issue. But if you want to create a database, so that means there should be a database in your FaunaDB, so that whenever you create a database, that will be a child of that particular database. So that's the first step. What I have done is I just call the client FaunaDB.client, provided the secret. Once I have provided the secret, it will request to the server, and it will connect to the database, and then we'll call the client.query. It will initiate the query and whatever query we want to do. At this moment, we are creating a database. In a moment, we'll see other steps as well, so that we can call the get data, get collection, create collection, all those steps we can do in this step. Let me go to that. So let's go for the second step. What it says, create key. So as we have created the key from the
Fine.
settings from here, we can also create in security. We have created key. We can create key from the client side as well, because we have created the database from the code. So we can also call the key from the code. So as it's mentioned here, everything will be the same. What we are just doing is, again, client.query. Inside client.query, we are calling q.create key, and round bracket, we are passing the name of the database and we are passing the role. As we have seen, when I try to create a new key, it asks me the role. So it's an admin or server, which type of key you want to create. So you can specify the role from your code. So what I'll do is, I'll go to our code and comment out this line. Here I'll call q.create key. Inside that, I'll pass object and it needs database. So name of our database is Gatsby app. I'll pass it over here. It will create the key and we will have the result. So we result have the secret key of a secret. So we'll use that. Let's call it again. So that's the secret. Now we can use this secret to connect to FaunaDB. So it will only connect to this particular database, Gatsby. At this moment, this key represents the key for a new demo new DB. So it can access these collections. It can access these child databases. If you want to call directly for that particular database, so we can use that as well. Okay, so now what we'll do is create container or a collection. So as we have seen here, once we created the database, it has given us few collections so that we can add documents inside that collection, like we'll be using any NoSQL database. So for that, exactly for that, we will be using the create collection and we'll pass the name and the post, whatever the name we want to keep. So what I'll do is I will inside that we'll pass q dot create collection. The collection will pass name. In the name of the collection, let's say we have a post as it's mentioned here, and I'll run this. Okay, so because okay, so now if we go to our database, okay, we have another collection inside post. Now you can see the collection we have is inside DemoNewDB. It's not inside Gatsby app because the key we are using is for the DemoNewDB. If I'll change that key and use the key provided by the this step. So if I'll use this key, then my collection will be inside Gatsby app database. At this moment, we are using the parent database key. So the collection of name post created over here. If I click it, there is no document inside it. So let's add the document inside it. But first, let's create the index. So we have create index function. We'll pass the name of the index and we will pass which collection, on which collection you want to create index and on what fields. For example, name, age, email address, there will be 10, 20 fields for in a particular collection. So on what fields you want to create index. So I'll use that. Okay, so post by title. So assuming that we are creating a post and a collection of posts, and inside that post we have a title property. The index has been created, and let's just go back to our database and see. It's not showing the index.
Left side nav, below collections, below collections, side nav, left.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. Yes, so here we have post by title. So we have this data dot title. We have this index, and so uh, to search into the database, we'll be needing some fields based on which that field will be searching for inside our database. But that field should be indexed so that database can search efficiently inside any particular collection. After that, we'll add some data into our database. So create a document. To create a document, just again client.query will call the q.create, and inside .q.create will pass the q.collection. It's a function. So we'll be accessing the post collection. So we are saying create a document inside the post collection, and then we'll pass an object data, and then inside the data so each collection will have data object, and then we'll have all the properties. Okay, so you can see we have create query. Inside create query is a function. Inside that we will be passing two parameters. One is, that's how you can, if you want to view it clearly. It's a function. We are passing two parameters. One is a post name of a collection, reference of a collection, and then a document JSON object. What type of data you want to pass inside that collection?
Yes, indexes is very powerful to access the data.
Yes. Okay, so it says data has been added, and let's go and see the data inside our collection. Post, yes, we have this collection over here, and as you can see, stores a timestamp as well. That's a timestamp, this data property, and then inside that we have title property. Let me change that and add some more TB title, or let me change it name and age. So I updated the data. Let me call it again. Okay, so let's see. So you can see we have data, we have a name property and then age property. So whatever data you want to add in your database, you will be in your collection, you will be sending that object inside your collection. Generally, we will be not using completely different property fields for a particular collection, but that's the power of NoSQL, that you can use any type of properties in a one document and then to completely different properties in another document. So that's what you can do. So you, as any time you will be calling that q.create for the collection, it will be keep creating the document inside that particular collection. Now that's something interesting. If we want to add multiple objects, multiple in document to, if you want to insert multiple document in a one go into a database, let's say we have a 100 student record of 100 student and we want to store those them in a single call, instead of just calling create again and again one by one in a for loop, we want to call it with the one go. So what we can do is we can use a syntax of graph faunadb, which is a q dot map. In that we'll be passing our array, whatever we need to pass inside that, and then we'll call q dot lambda. So it's quite difficult, so I'll explain it while creating so that you can understand it easily. That's important point for what you say, create a multiple record. Okay, so inside our client query, we'll call q dot map, and map accepts an array and a lambda function. It's in a function, it's a database function, they call it lambda. It's basically, it calls an expression. So what you will do is you will pass in lambda, you will pass a parameter and then you pass an expression which will execute on each element of an array which we provide over here. So we need to first pass an array and a lambda, q dot lambda. That's two parameter map function requires. So the second line, so for the first parameter we need data, whatever data we have. So let's use this data for now. So we have an array, we provided it. So we need to insert 3 records of post and each have a one string. Then we need an iteration. So lambda does this for us. So first we need to provide a parameter, so that we need to identify a name of a variable. So each, as we do, let me explain it this way. For when we use for loop, so whenever we want to use a particular element in an array, so let's say we have an array. So what we do is we call arr ith index. That's how we call it. When we use the for loop for each, let's say we have arr array dot for each, or we call it map and any function. So we have a data here, and then we, if as so we, the array has, let's say, these 4 elements. So for data, the first element in the first iteration 2 will be in data. So when we call console.log, first it will return 2. In next iteration it will say 3. In third iteration it will say 4, and in fourth iteration it will say 5. So we'll be accessing data step by step in each iteration, and the data inside array will be coming one by one in data variable, so you can use it that particular variable. Exactly the same is happening over here, but in a different style, in a declarative style. You are not doing anything. It's an imperative style, it's also a declarative style, and we are using the same here. So for lambda, what we're doing is to access each element, we need a variable like we have data over here. So we need to make that name. That's how it's created the post title, or you can give it any name. So let's say, to understand, I'm giving it a post underscore title. Well, so keep it a different name, just otherwise it will be the same. You do not have to worry about it. And the second argument lambda accept is the expression, the function which will execute for each of this element. So for that, we are calling q.create, and this is exactly the same. Q.create your collection and this data. So this is exactly the same. There is no difference in it. The only difference is, instead of sending the hard coded value, we'll be sending the variable. So we'll call q.create, and inside that we'll pass q.collection as a first argument. We say post, and as second argument we need to pass object. And that object, at this moment, we are assuming we have a title, and now we need a value. That's this data. So to access this, we have this variable. And how we'll be accessing this? Because lambda is a function, it calls this expression on each iteration, and then the value, for example, Gatsby generate, will be available in this variable post title. So what we can do is we can call q.var, and we'll pass post underscore title underscore well. So that's how that's lambda function and the map works. So whenever you want to add multiple data or insert a multiple data in one call, so you will use this q.map. You will pass an array, then you call the lambda function. It needs a add variables. So you can name it anything, then you pass an expression, and inside that expression you can access q.var these variables. So inside q.var you can pass this to whatever. In the first iteration, Gatsby.js will be in post title. In second iteration, FunaDB is consistent, will be in post.title. In third iteration, netlify deploy. So it's exactly the same. We can use the for each. We have used map functions. So that's the exactly same, but just an simple different style. Okay, so now let's execute it. We are live now, right? Yes. Okay, so it has created the three documents inside our post collection. So let me go to the collection of posts, and let's go to database. Now you can see oh, there is no data, so we have missed something. There might be some mistake. Okay, yes, we need to call it this way, data column, and then inside it should be inside. Okay, so now it's showing us the data as well. Let's go to the database, and here you can see we have the database document. Gatsby generate, FunaDB is consistent and netlify. So that's how you can add multiple documents in one go into the FunaDB. Daniel, you want to add something?
Yes, sir, exactly. That is how we can create multiple documents in the collection. And the next topic is very interesting. That will you will continue indexes.
Yes. Now what we need to do is we need to fetch the data. We need to retrieve data from the database. So whatever collection we have, we can call that data from that particular collection. So for that we have q.get, and to whichever collection we want to use, so we'll call the q.ref, and then we'll pass the collection name and the ref, and where this some big number is coming from. This is what we have in our collection. So if you see ref collection post, and we have this timestamp, this or something. So we can call this we can access this particular document using that timestamp directly. So we'll pass that reference and then pass that, so we can access, just like we in MySQL or NoSQL databases, we can call data from the ID. We can call using the ID. So that's how you can call your data using this function. So what I'll do is I'll comment out inside this query. So you need to understand that whenever you are calling a query, you need to call client.query, and all the function, all the queries will be inside this q.get. This q.get requires what? q.ref, and we have, and we'll be passing the data collection and the time step inside the ref. q.ref, q dot inside that ref will be passing q dot collection posts, and then pass the. So that's what Sarzia had when he was creating that. What we need is we need from our database. So I'll access this document. For that I'll copy this key, and we are printing the result. So at this moment, you need to understand that we are just exploring the FonaDB, so that how we can call, we can take different actions on FonaDB. So how we can get the database, how we can create collection, how we can get the data, how we can insert the data, all these things. So these at this moment, these steps are related to this. Once we are done with these steps, then we will go to the Gatsby project, and then we'll, if not today, then we'll go for the Gatsby project, and then we'll call the FonaDB from our Lambda function. So then we'll see the whole picture when we'll be calling that. So at this moment, we will be using it directly. Okay, so you can see it tries to find the FonaDB is consistent. So it finds the data and it returns us that particular data. So it's easy because it's a just direct call. We have passed this key, and it will be an easy search for the FonaDB. Next step is find by index. So what you need to understand is, whenever you are working with the database and you want to search for with the particular key any property, let's say you have a student In student table, you have a name, age, email address, ID, phone number. There can be multiple properties in a collection for a student. If you want to search a student for particular property, like if you want to search a student with the phone number, if you want to search a student with email address, if you want to search a student with the age, so you must create index on that field so that you can easily search. Database can easily search on that particular field, and it will be efficient for database. So as we have seen in our step create index, we have created an index by the name post by title on the post collection post, and we say that uh, we have a title property inside data object. So create an index on title property. So we have already created that index. So what we need to do is we need to just as we did with the ref, we call the get, and inside that we pass q.ref. In case of searching by index, what we'll do is we'll pass q.match, and then we'll pass q.index. We need to search with the index, so that means it will be searching based on title property, and we'll pass this value. So whichever document has this value, it will return to us. In our case, we have the same value twice. Serverless application are scalable, and serverless application, that's a name property, so it will not search on that. The title it once, so it will give us a one object. Okay, so let's go inside here. Call q.match. Inside q.match will pass q.index. Index will be the one we have created. Okay, so, and then we'll provide the value with which value we need to search. So we'll be searching with service application are scalable, or let's say let me, instead of this, let me search with Netlify. So it returns the data. That means the search was successful. If there is no such particular data, let's say it says set not found. That means there is no such document, and you need to handle that error by yourself. You need to identify what kind of error it is, and then you can display data or error accordingly based on that. So you can see that we have instance not found message. We can use that message to understand that what kind of error it is, and we can manage based on that. So you need to understand that data should be there, otherwise it will not. Okay, so that's how you can search with the index if you want to search. Then we can update the data. So to update the data, that means we need to change the collection. We need to add some more properties in a particular collection. So it's exactly the same, just we'll call q.update, and then we'll pass reference. So on what particular instance we need, document we need to update, and then we'll pass the values that we need to add or change or something. So there is a sound coming from somewhere. Oh, it was you, Daniyal.
Yes, sir.
I thought it was me.
No.
Okay, so now what I'll do is we'll call q.ref,
The good thing
So
is
that,
same code you just copy and paste it in the React application. It will work same. So no
yeah,
worry about
because
server and client.
yes, yeah, because it's in a you can call from the server and client as well. So you can contact, you
Hmm.
can connect with FunnelDB from the both. So
Exactly. Exactly.
collection posts, and then we'll pass the no, sorry. First, we need to call the update q.update, and in ref I need to pass post, and then which object we need to update. So if you see, we are passing this ID hard coded, but the point is we are learning it step by step. So we are using updating directly. When we'll be working with the particular application, we'll be getting the data as an array, and then we'll be displaying in the UI, and then we'll click on particular record. So we'll access that ID, and then we'll update. So when we'll be working on a full-fledged application, at this moment we are just updating in steps. So that's why we need to uh, pass this hard-coded value. So in that case, that means we need a property. So let me access this object, this document, and then pass over here q.ref inside q.ref, and then we'll pass what we do. We will pass the data. Let's say if we are updating this object, so we are saying let me change the title and add another. First, let me add another property. So after the title, I'll say content. Another property, and then let's execute this step. It's updated. Now you can see data, title, and content. So document has been updated. If I'll change the title on the same document, you can see document has been updated. So you can update this document using the update key. So any particular document will be updated. Then there are only two steps left, and we have enough time to cover those. So I'll use that time and we'll cover these steps, and then in next class we'll start with the Gatsby and FunnelDB with FunnelDB inside our Lambda function. So for replace, if you want to replace a particular document, a complete document, so it will not just update a particular property or add any property. It will replace the complete content of that property. So we'll call the replace. It's, everything is same. Just we'll call q.replace. Inside the q.replace, we'll pass the
ID
post.
is changed now.
Yeah, I need to change the ID. And let's say instead of title, I'll call it name. So the complete object has been updated. It's completely replaced. So you can call the replace property further. So you need to understand the difference between replace and update. Replace will replace the complete object. Update will just add if there is because we had only one property, that's why we didn't face that problem. Otherwise, what you need to understand is, in this case, when we call the update, it will add the another tag, property name tag. There will be other properties in that particular document. Those properties will not be touched, they will stay same, and there will be another property inside particular document. But instead of update, if you change it to replace, so what it will do is it will remove all those properties and it will update the document. The complete document is replaced. So whenever you want to add another property or update a particular document, keeping other things same, you'll use the q.update. If you want to completely replace the document, so it will keep the ID and otherwise and change the complete document. So that's how you do the replace. And the last thing is delete. So for delete, you definitely need a reference to your particular document so that you can delete. So again, it's the same q.delete. You will pass the reference, which collection you want to delete, and then the ID. Okay, so q.delete. Inside that, I'll call q.ref. Inside that q.ref, we call q.collection. Post, comma, ID. Let's say I want to delete this gets be generate static. So I'll copy this ID and so you can see there is no Gatsby generated. So that document has been removed from the our collection. So that's how we can use all we can get, update, delete, replace. One thing we need to understand is, if someone has a question that if I want to delete multiple document in the one query, so you need to use the same logic. There's the map. You will provide IDs over here instead of these text. And in Lambda, what you'll do is, instead of q.create, you will call the q.delete, and here that's an ID. You will just call q.var, so that ID will be coming on each step, so on each iteration. So you need to use that same logic, just to you need to update this expression, so that if you want to delete multiple document, you will call delete over here. If you want to update, replace multiple document, you can do that this way. And this array will be used as an element, so you will be passing IDs over here, and you can do that. So that's how there can be many queries combinations which you can use, but on the whole, at the basic level, how you want to access that queries, how you will be calling FunaDB, and how you'll be connecting that DB, and how you will be getting, updating, and replacing data. That's what we have seen today. And that's for that you need to call require FunaDB, call the query, call funadb.client, provide the secret, and you will be accessing that from the environment variable. You will not pass it as a hard code, and it should not be part of your repository. Keys should not be part of your repository. Then you can use client.await, client.query, and all the delete, update, collection, whatever you want to call it, that will be inside that function. So that's an expression will be passing your function. So that's all for today. Daniel, you want to add something? I guess we are done with it.
Yes, sir, all done. You have already covered everything related FaunaDB. Yes, this is basically the good thing is it provides a method which we can call from server or client as well, and this is the beauty of the data API. And
Yes.
the most powerful feature is definitely indexes. If we want
Mm.
to get the data, access the data using indexing, so definitely we can access it using indexes.
Okay, then in next class we'll be creating a Gatsby application, and we'll create the function Netlify functions, and then we'll call database FunaDB connection from that function, and we'll see the complete cycle of an application. Okay, then
Perfect.
till then, Allah Hafiz.
Thank you so much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.